This is Grog Talk. I am Steve McDonald here with Skip Murphy, Mike Rogers, and we have Rich Gerard on the phone. He is running for the school board in Manchester, and Mr. Murphy has a question.
No, actually a comment.
Oh, a comment.
Rich, you think it's going to be easier to get the information from the Manchester School Board? Good luck with that. Unfortunately, what I saw and continue to see is around the state, there seems to be, I'll call it a conspiracy, of keeping that information locked up from not just regular folks like you and I right now, but also as a budget committee member, I was supposed to, by statute, be able to ask for any information I want and get it in any format that I want. Trust me, this is not going to be easy for you as you transition into, if you win, to be able to get that information. Expect the same headaches.
Well, I hear that loud and clear, and I'm not going to disagree with you. I am going to say, though, that there are a couple things at play. First of all, it's looking to me like there are going to be a number of changes on the Manchester School Board, and more folks sympathetic to my point of view are going to get elected. There are already a body of people on that board who I expect will be reelected who are of that mind. So it's not a situation where there isn't going to be, I'm not going to be one of 15 members, if you know what I mean. So I think the administration is going to have to be mindful of the fact that there will be a significant block of votes that is going to be a problem for it if it doesn't cooperate. Now, that said, I just saw the last Manchester School Board meeting where members of the board were asking, hey, remember that directive we gave you to choose an elementary school to add an additional recess to see how it affected student behavior and test scores? Yeah, how come you didn't come to us with that and came to us with a whole bunch of schools that might be interested in doing the stupid wiggle, wiggle, walk, walk thing for recess in place? So, the administration kind of got a bit of a reminder and a spanking on that. And I expect that to happen. But, Skip, I'm under no illusions. I hear you loud and clear. I'm just hoping that the numbers of us on the board who want to see what we want to see, the way we want to see it, and when we want to see it, are going to be enough that the administration will either comply or quit, and then we can go hire some people who won't be so obsequious.
Okay.
Natural word.
It is. I got a different question on the same kind of vein, though. When you look at the budget, and that's really where my history comes from, the vast majority of the money is going to the adults, not to the children. Although every time that the union says much, it's always for the children. Well, when
it's always for the children, and the children are always better served by them having more pay raises and the students having fewer supplies. Yes.
Right. Most people don't understand how shockingly little out of a multi-million-dollar budget actually goes directly to the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at the age of the textbooks, you look at the supplies for the science labs, you look at almost anything that go child direct, and it's an exceedingly small percentage. Most people think, 50, 60, 70%. No, it's 70, 75% to the adults. Is that? Do you consider that to be?
In Manchester, I'm told the numbers are currently pushing 90.
How do you change that? Do you see that as a problem? Is that something that you would take on?
Well, we have an interesting set of circumstances here in Manchester on that question, in that the Board of School Committee and the Board of Aldermen just ratified a 3-year contract that is going to give teachers, the bulk of the city's teacher, well, let me put it this way, depending on where they fall on the salary scale, every city teacher in the city of Manchester over the next 3 years will see pay raises of between 7 and 21%.
What? Are you serious?
Now, that pay raise breaks the city's tax cap. We have a cap. Not only it's called a tax cap, but really what it is it's a cap on the amount of revenue that can be generated year to year from the tax base, and it's a cap on spending.
Mm-hmm.
So it works like this: if you lose $1 million in tuition revenue from a surrounding town, before you can increase your spending, you have to use your tax revenues to offset that $1 million revenue loss.
Correct.
So the cap is a real you-know-what.
And I think it's a good thing.
And I support it. So we're looking at that here in the Queen City. And that contract, by the way, is in court because a number of Manchester citizens said, you know what, 3 aldermen flagrantly violated the charter to vote on that and to override the mayor's veto of that. And so the whole contract could get thrown out. We just don't know.
Well,
so how you change that, though, Skip, I have to tell you, I'm not sure I know, because those costs are locked in, and the only thing the city can do to try to stay within its budget and stay within the cap is see layoffs of employees, which I don't think is going to do anything to improve the percentage of money going into the classroom versus going into people's pockets, because they're going to eliminate every possible classroom expense to try to keep as many possible teachers on the job.
Yeah. Where's my audio? That's the standard negotiating techniques of unions, whether it be teachers' unions in the United States or the nursing unions in the United Kingdom on the National Health Service, which is if the government puts your budget under stress, the first thing you do is lay off the people that are providing the service to the customers, so the customers will feel the pain and beg to be taxed at a higher rate. You need to force them to lay off the aides, the administrators, the special services people that really don't contribute anything to educating anybody.
Yeah, if there is a silver lining in this, it's that, the City of Manchester schools, I think, average something like 40 retirements a year. And so, when you have to cross your fingers and hope that the worst-case scenario is you can't fill the vacancies created by retirement, you're not in a good place. And I think that's not something that gets changed immediately. I think that's something that gets changed over time. And I think that gets changed by a board that is determined to redirect how things are done. I also think, though, one of the things I did when I had my little sit-down with the union, because they asked, and I talk to anybody who asks me my positions, say, look, you guys need to look at this a little differently. And I gave them a plan, the outline of a plan, an entirely different way to hire, train, and promote and compensate teachers that Sid Glassner, who does the education segment on my show and hosts his own show on Thursdays from 10 to 11 on 90.7 FM, has spent his lifetime working on. And I think if we can start to look at new paradigms like that and start to make changes, I think over the long run we'll hopefully get to where we need to go. We'll restore teaching as a profession and not as a blue-collar punch clock kind of hear the rules on my 15-minute break kind of job.
If you really want to mess with their heads, ask them the question that I kept asking the school board. What is the ratio of your indirect to direct labor? Well,
Explain to me what that means.
Well, basically, I come from a manufacturing background, and there are those people who actually make the product, though that's your direct labor.
Yep.
What is your direct labor cost? Then what is your indirect labor? That's everybody else. That's pure overhead. If you're not making the product, you're overhead. And manufacturers watch that ratio like a hawk, because when that ratio gets out of whack, you're spending too much of not doing anything that actually makes the product that goes out the door. I started asking that question to the school board. I asked that question for 3 years, and then all of a sudden, because the enrollments were going down, they had no choice but to start getting rid of positions.
Why do you hate the children, Skip?
Well, they got rid of the overhead, the indirect labor first.
No, but you have to hate the children to get rid of anything, Skip.
You do, Skip.
You know that?
You do. The example...
And you know something? I will say, yes, I hated the excess that wasn't going to the children. That's why when you use that phrasing, what is your indirect to direct, it shows that you're looking out for the resources that actually go to the children. And it's a wonderful thing.
So, you got to picture Skip driving a bus full of administrators over the cliff.
But we all know that if you want to reduce expenses to reflect your reality, like declining enrollment, that you hate the children. That's your perfect opportunity to make sure that you have a 5-to-1 student-to-teacher ratio, and therefore show how much you care and how much you love them, and how you can individualize it by keeping the overhead high, so that they can have a better education.
So they can try to play the games, and you just keep coming down to that ratio. And no matter which way they want to try it, they're stymied. And just try it, Rich.
Oh, I'm going to. I just needed to see how I needed to defend myself against why I hated the children.
Oh, trust me, all you have to do is come and ask. I've been through this all.
Yeah, I mean, the slightly crueler approach to the unions is to say, you can have your wage increase, but the budget cap is still in place, so figure out who you're going to lay off to make sure the others can get paid more.
Well, and that's essentially where we are in Manchester. The question remains whether or not the Board of Mayor and Aldermen will hold fast to that, or whether or not they'll override the cap. The real danger in the city is not just that the teacher's contract alone will break the tax cap next year. So we have 17 other bargaining units that are currently operating under expired contracts and negotiating. And given that they all 3 years ago gave up healthcare, gave up concessions on their health insurance to keep people on the job or to add to their numbers without a pay raise, one's got to think about their mentality right now. It says teachers get 7.25% in their first year.
Oh, yeah. This all comes down
in exchange for the concessions.
Yeah, this all comes. I'm sorry, Rich.
Yeah, we're interviewing him. Shush. Yeah. Go ahead, Rich.
No, I was just saying. I think we're on very bad ground right now.
Oh yeah.
And a lot hinges on the outcome of the election. So if people don't think there isn't a real election fight down here between incumbent Mayor Ted Gatsas and rival Alderman Joyce Craig, they're wrong. And if they have any hope of seeing their tax cap preserved, Mayor Gatsas's election needs to happen.
Yeah.
I on the school board thing, I think I used this example once about the spending. I said, if your school district was a nonprofit and you were donating to the nonprofit and you found out that 70 to 90% of the money that you were giving them was going to overhead and not to the purpose of the nonprofit, you wouldn't donate anymore. And I think that that's a good example of what happens to taxpayers who don't understand what's going on. And they definitely need people like yourself, and you have the advantage of having a media voice to tell them about what's going on. They have an opportunity to hear these things. We're wishing that you do very well. We need you and everybody else on that board to make sure people understand that relationship better.
No, go ahead. I was just going to say I will certainly be a voice that raises that as often as it needs to be raised.
So how do people get a hold of Mr. Rich Girard?
Oh, generally with a rope.
Yeah, yeah. How about a shepherd's crook? Would that work?
that would work too. No, I think probably the best way to get to me is through my website, GirardAtLarge.com. You'll see in the header we have created a page for my School Board at Large campaign. I decided to tie my campaign to the radio show because of all of the things that I've talked about schools and education over the years. So people can get a flavor for that. There's a contact me page there, too. They just send me an email is the best thing to do, probably.
All right. Well, we want to thank you for taking some time to talk to us today.
And for having the courage to run.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I knew I was going to be in for some nasty treatment, and some people haven't let me down, but by and large, the people who watch it from outside, watch it from afar, and are going to be casting the votes. It's been very positive, and I'm hopeful for Tuesday.
All right. Good luck.
All right. Remember to vote, but only if you're going to vote for me.
Okay. All right. We'll see you, Rich.
Take care.
Bye-bye. All right. Rich Girard. Election is Tuesday. This is Grok Talk. I'm Steve McDonald here with Mike Rogers and Skip Murphy. We are coming up next with Karen Vaughn. We're going to talk about the CVA and Hillary Clinton. We'll be back.
Rock.